You're on 121.5, the emergency frequency.
Welcome to the 21.5 Show, a podcast for professional pilots by professional pilots. Join Dylan and Max, both with experience in flight instruction, the airlines, and business aviation, as they talk to a variety of industry experts, share stories, and have a little fun along the way.
All right.
Here we are.
A lot of numbers for you today, Max. Starting off with number 58, which is, I believe, this episode.
Huge numbers guy.
Huge. And I got an even bigger number for you. But first, you're listening to the 21.5 podcast. It's the show for the professional pilots. You might be wondering what's going on here, but I'm just giving Max a bunch of numbers to start the show. The big number to share with you, 100,000. That's how many downloads we just hit last week.
Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
That's actually, think about that. That's crazy.
Yep. It's awesome, really.
Well, it is. Hey, listen, it's mind-boggling. I guess would be if I had to sum it up.
We've come a long way since we tried.
Yeah, that's cool though. That's awesome.
Yeah, we've come a long way since the.
Does that mean we're successful podcasters? What defines that?
I don't know. That's a good question. Well,
I don't know that I'll ever look at us as successful podcasters, but
no. But I'll tell you what,
more successful than some. Let's just say that.
That's right. That's right. It's like I used to fly with this guy, and he joked if he ever wrote me a letter of recommendation, he would write, Dylan, he's somewhere between the best and the worst pilot. And I feel like that's good for the podcast description.
Not to leave anything open to interpretation. I like that.
We're just somewhere between the best and the worst aviation podcast. Marginally better than the other aviation podcasts. Anyways.
Were we number one in Estonia at one point?
Mm-hmm, I think so, yeah. And then Anuj said we were in top 45 show. Top 45 aviation podcast. I think there's only 37 aviation podcasts total. So, anyways,
enough about us.
Thanks to all the listeners for everything. Quickly. We have made it 100,000. Appreciate it. Okay, I got some more numbers for you, Max. You remember our friends over at Advanced Aircrew Academy? I've talked about them being a really good follow on LinkedIn. They always post a lot of really relevant articles. And they posted an article today. Today is July 1st. And it was on the most delivered biz jets of the first half of 2021.
Okay, hold on.
Yeah.
Am I supposed to guess? I have not seen this.
I know you haven't seen this. So I was just going to see, can you guess the most delivered biz jet? And I should say business aviation aircraft, because there's some turboprops on here too. Most delivered business aviation aircraft in the first half of 2021.
I'm going to say the Phenom 300.
That is on the list at number 6. Any other guesses?
Well, I saw they delivered the 1000th XLS, so I bet that's on the list somewhere.
No.
Really? Not at all?
No.
In the top, what was the top how many?
Top 10. I've got the list of top 10 here.
Is it CJ4?
No 525s on the list.
You're kidding me.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't imagine it's like the G500 or something like that, is it?
No.
Who knows, dude? The world's crazy. It could be. Let's see.
There are some big airplanes on there, but no. Number
Did
one.
You give it away by saying it's also a turboprop? Does that mean it's a King Air 350 or 200?
No. All right. Well, this is
PC-12.
riveting radio. It is. It's the PC-12. You got it on the last guess.
I did get it? Wow.
Yeah, PC-12 is number 1. Cirrus Vision Jet number 2. TBM 900 number 3. Okay, now here's a couple that are more interesting. After that, it goes Global 7500 at 4, PC-24 at 5, Phenom 300, which you guessed at 6, Challenger 350, Global 6500, Latitude, and then the M600 with the Autoland. That was I think that's the Piper.
Yeah, that's the new version of the Meridian. That's crazy. there's so many of those airplanes that just, I don't know. You got to have more money than sense for some of those airplanes, I think.
I think so.
Well, I don't know. I guess, see, the problem is we look at it from being professional. And I'll just say the airplanes that come to mind is the TBM 950, the Cirrus Vision Jet. I look at and for what they cost, and then you look at the performance and everything, and I'm like, what? Why would you do that? Like, there's so many airplanes that will do the same mission, arguably better for far less money. But then again, we're seasoned professional pilots. If I'm sitting here and I have a Baron and I want to upgrade to something, and I see Autoland and M600, even though it has no useful the TBM is a great airplane. Don't get me wrong. It's so much money for what you end up with and what you do. And the Cirrus Vision Jet too. If I'm in a Baron and I own a company and I have that kind of money, I guess that airplane makes sense at a certain level, right? Like, do you see what I'm saying? Because it's transition wise, probably insurability, all that stuff. It's just an easier
support. Obviously.
Yeah. Then going back, I'm a big MU2 guy. Like, that airplane will do way more and go faster, except for the TBM. But I mean, and you have 2 engines and you can operate it for less money and yada, yada, yada. But that's an airplane that is probably better in the hands of an experienced person than somebody coming out of a Baron, as we've seen, as history has shown us. Right. So,
well, it's what's interesting to me is the top three PC-12, Cirrus Vision Jet, and TBM 900 are all potentially owner-flown airplanes. Now, if you can get an owner and float insurance, it's a completely different story, as we've talked about many times on this show. But all right, so I got a question for you. Let's look at this through the lens of the professional pilot. How can you use this list to help guide you when you're contemplating a job? And looking at, hey, should I go fly this airplane or maybe take a job flying a different airplane? Do you think there's any use at understanding deliveries and anything like that?
No. Because the problem is, well, I guess that depends. If you are 22 years old and you do not care where you live and you have no girlfriend, no wife, no kids, and you want to fly a new airplane, then yes, the list has value. The problem with it is that these are all airplanes that are going most delivered, period, right? So they could be going anywhere in the world. Mm-hmm. And so the odds of really, saying, oh, I want to live in Phoenix and there's a bunch of Challengers that were sold. So they're, I just don't think that it's really going to affect. I think every market seems to have its type that has more prevalence. And I think that would be a better use of somebody's time and, number crunching.
Okay. If you had to pick one of these airplanes off the list to get type rated on from I'm a professional pilot, this will do me the most good in general, ignoring the location
just
stuff.
Read the list again quickly for myself and everyone else that forgot it.
Okay. PC-12, Cirrus Vision Jet, TBM 900. There's the 2 globals, 7500 and 6500, PC-24, Phenom 300, Challenger 350. Latitude. I'm going to skip the M600.
Well, I think clearly it narrows to the Latitude, the Challenger 350, and what was the other one that was right there? That was an obvious choice, I think.
Phenom 300, Global 7500, and 6500.
Yeah, and the Phenom 300, the Challenger 350, and the Latitude. I think those. Obviously, everybody wants to say the Global 6500, right? But unless you have something lined up, that's a type rating that I think we've said that. Now, I think if your goal is to be a professional pilot and you want that, one of those 3 would definitely give you the best chance of landing a job the quickest, right? Mm-hmm. Wouldn't you say? But if you want to be a professional contract pilot, I'd have to do more research because I really don't know. Does a Global 6500 its own standalone type, or is that the same as the 6000 or what?
It's probably just differences. I don't know the answer.
Because it just seems what we've seen for those of you that haven't is when a new type comes to market that's brand new and it's a new not just a new airplane, but it's a brand new type rating. the contract rates on those can just be
insane,
ridiculous. Well, of course, it's the most expensive type rating in the building. We're talking. Remember when the 650 came out?
It was $100K.
Yeah, it was $100,000, but weren't people pulling down like 7,000 a day? Even I heard 10,000 a day before. Crazy stuff because people. There was no supply. Yeah, and they had the money to pay that and wanted to use a brand new shiny airplane. So.
So here's the reason I brought this whole thing up. I was cruising online through some of the pilot social media, and somebody posted that they had won a scholarship for a type rating of their choice, which I don't know what scholarship that is, but that was insane. Here was the kicker, though. The guy had 600 hours. And so he was asking everybody, what type rating should I go for? I've got 600 hours. And it was funny because you had some people that would just be like, oh, Global 7500 or something, you know what I mean? And no one really put a lot of thought into it and touched on some of the points that you already made. What's your local market? What can you line up? You know, a lot of people had really good advice where they came in and they're like, go find the local operators and figure out what they're flying and go tell them like, hey, I can get a free type rating. You know, what would be useful? So it was kind of interesting seeing that conversation and kind of, which I totally agree with, is like, what's going to actually get you a job? You know, that's what I would look at. The last point I wanted to make, or I'm sorry, did you want to say something about that?
I was just going to say the strategy is to use the free type rating to hedge your low time. Yeah, obviously, right? Go to someone and say, hey, good news or bad news? Good news is I can get a free type rating on the airplane you have, and they'll save you a bunch of money. Bad news is I have 600 hours. So
right, exactly.
You want to make a deal?
Yeah, that's one of those, like, if you had 600 hours, it almost wouldn't matter what type rating you had. You better line something up beforehand, because if you just go get a type with that type of time, no one's going to call it. Not many people are going to call you.
There's time restrictions too, like with flight safety and giving you that type rating. I guess that's mostly for PIC type rating, though, right? They'll probably give anybody SIC.
Last point I want to make up on this list. I want to highlight 3 airplanes that are on this list that we talked about: Phenom 300, Challenger 350, and Latitude. Heavily used by fractionals. If you're an airline pilot and you're looking to make the jump into business aviation, we have said this before, probably the easiest jump to make from 121 is to go into a fractional. It's got a lot of similarities to airlines. It's a good first step, and odds are you're probably going to get typed on one of those 3 airplanes. And all of those airplanes are extremely popular and extremely relevant that you can use even if you don't think fractional's your final destination. That's a good stepping stone. Go in there, get 500 hours in that airplane. That's going to really open up a ton of doors for you if you want to make a jump to a 91 operator later on. And those airplanes are everywhere.
You know, it's funny. So a buddy of mine is a retired airline pilot, and he's been interested in scaring up a corporate gig. And so he finally met a guy who has a company that's really taking off, and he travels around a bunch. And so the gentleman wants to buy an airplane, $4 to $5 million. He's kind of has the mission figured out. He's got to go mostly in the Southwest, but anywhere, and has to fit these like certain size TV monitors to go to do a sales pitch and all this stuff. So he says, so he asked me like how much to manage it, or did I want to fly, get paid like a day rate or a salary? And I told him I'd get back to him. So he calls me. He's like, so what do you think I should do? I'm like, well, you're retired. Here's the thing. If you go on salary, you are going to have what I like to call the corporate handcuffs on, where it's great. You might not fly that much, but when you got to fly, you have to show up. And if you're got plans to go to your second home or whatever, you're not going to be able to do that. And I broke it down. Or if you're a contract pilot, then if there's other pilots in the market that are competent and qualified, then maybe they could fly. And if you weren't available, and you could just provide management and fly when it was more convenient, and broke the whole thing down to him. And it was funny because it just reminded me of a lot of the conversations we have here, where it's like it's this whole new world that is very, very different. And so I'm sure we'll be having a lot of discussions moving forward on how to set things up and this and that. So, but he's
Absolutely
a great dude. He's done a lot for me, so I'm happy to help.
Yeah. And as we're going to see, we heard from James in the last episode, like the major airline vacuum is starting again, and we're going to see talent leaving business aviation, going back to 121 world, and it's going to have to be backfilled by folks, and it's a steep learning curve. So,
what's going to be funny too? Do you think a lot of these guys and gals that took early retirement, like, are they going to start hitting the boredom wall here pretty soon? Like, the group of people that we both know, that there's some people that are so busy in retirement, they're like, I'm busier than when I worked, and then there's the ones that just are lost in retirement, people, and that think they're going to golf and do all this stuff, and they're bored and they want to go back to work. And
that's a good point.
I think we're going to start hitting that point of, now that things have opened up and people have the opportunity to go do stuff, and they're like, oh, good, now I can start like golfing like I've been talking about doing and all this. And then all of a sudden they start getting bored and they're like, well, maybe I should go fly. And a lot of those people are younger than 65. I mean, I shouldn't say a lot of them, most of them, because they took early retirement. That's the whole point, right?
Right. Exactly. Well, that's why for a very reasonable fee, we will be offering consulting for 121 pilots looking to make the jump. So, yeah, well, I thought that was just kind of an interesting article to discuss and saw on social media. So curious what our listeners would pick on that list. I'll put that list in the show notes so you can see, but shoot us a message, info@215podcast.com with your thoughts, or hit us up on the socials at 215podcast and tell us what type you'd pick. I think I'd pick Challenger 350. That's me personally, but I think you can't go wrong with some of those. All right, on to
even with all you've said about Bombardier, you'd still go back.
You know what though? But
after all they've done to you,
you know what? They've actually, it hasn't been that bad of an experience for me. Did I mention our latest sponsor, Bombardier Business? I've had a good experience. Our 604 is just rock solid. That's me knocking on wood.
Listen, the XLS has been rock solid, but doesn't mean I don't have my druthers with Textron. Let's just say they fall in the product support rankings where they do for a reason. and I've let them know that on the phone.
It is what it is. All right. Okay. Next topic. On to the reviews. Great news. We almost had a review, Max. I received a text message from one of our friends that says, I keep meaning to write you a review. So one of these days, I think we're actually going to get one. It's going to be incredible.
Just be insulting. I don't know.
Yeah, I know. I keep meaning to, but it's just not that important.
I keep meaning to, but you're just not important enough. So I keep finding other things that are better to do.
Yeah. There's so many
One
better
day I'll
things
get around to it. Next pandemic, I'll get to it. I promise. Next time we're on lockdown, be right at the top of my list.
If you're bored and you're commuting, or you're sitting on the blue line, going to the Cumberland stop, or you're just getting bumped off the third flight home and you're just sitting by the gate waiting for the next flight.
Pull your phone out.
Yep.
Go to the podcast app.
Yep.
Leave us a review quickly.
Yeah,
please.
That's right.
Thank you.
Emergency. Beyond that, one of our listeners, Ty, who is a helicopter pilot and has actually been in the state of Arizona doing firefighting work for us up in Heber and some of the other fires that have been going on. So thank you, Ty, for protecting our state. We really appreciate it. He bought a tumbler from us, so we'll be shipping that one out. And that means I've only got 2 left. So just a couple left. And then the next product, you and I are going to be beta testing this month. And I'm really excited for it, but we got to test it first to make sure it works. It's a little teaser. Yeah.
We wouldn't sell anything we don't use ourselves, Dylan.
Exactly. Absolutely. Okay. Up next, flight advice. But before we do that, we'd like to mention our sponsor, Harvey Watt. Here's a little advice for everybody. Check out your coverages when it comes to your certificates. What would happen if you had a long-term loss of medical? Would you be able to cover the bills? Would you keep your job? Would your spouse still respect you?
Wow, I didn't see you going there. Another thing with Harvey Watt is the medical advisory board service that they provide. I actually will be taking advantage of that service this week. I'm starting a couple of supplements, and I was thinking about it, and I was like, wow, it's free if you're already utilized their service. And it's one of those things that has all the potential upside and zero downside. So I'm going to send a quick email, say, hey, is there anything I should be concerned about utilizing these things in my ongoing quest for aviation medicals, and see what they say. Because you never know what you might get. You might be surprised.
That's right. Watch out for that ginkgo biloba. HarveyWatt.com. Check out all of the coverages they provide for professional pilots. Loss of medical, even life insurance. It's all there. HarveyWatt.com. Okay, on to flight advice. We got this one. Hey, gents, longtime listener with a quick question. I'm a new CFI and have been banging on doors in my town for a few months, but all the flight schools in the area are full. I cannot move due to my wife's work. Do you know how often I should follow up with all of the schools? Thanks so much, Mark.
Once a month. Next question.
Okay.
Well, no, wouldn't you say that's kind of what would you recommend?
Yeah, I think it depends. Here's the real question. Where did you get your CFI? And what's going on with the school where you got your CFI? That's probably going to be the easiest path to getting the job, right? If they like you.
That's a good point. And if it sounds like he hasn't been moving around, so it should be where he lives.
Yeah. So that would probably be the place I would be the most focused on, assuming that, you have a good relationship there.
Yeah. I mean, one strategy would be just to sit out in front of the flight school, and anybody that's coming in for their CFI say, hey, you can get your CFI here. They just won't hire you. So just saying.
Yeah.
And then they'll finally, they'll just wear him down.
So, yeah, I think once a month is good advice. Maybe every couple of weeks. I mean, here's the thing, we listen to James. Everybody's hiring right now. I can't imagine there's going to be many flight schools that aren't going to be looking for instructors here in the next month or 2 months, probably. So I think just remaining in contact with the chief instructors at all these different schools, it's just going to be a matter of time. So I think you're in like a bridge the gap type situation right now where if you're just
kind of sitting out there on your surfboard, but get ready because you can see the wave coming.
I was trying to think, before when I read this before, I was trying to think of something that I could tell this person to do in the interim to like stay in the air. Can you think of any good ideas of like, hey, maybe you got your CFI a few months ago and you've just been twiddling your thumbs. If you have the financial resources available, do you think like maybe just going in and getting your tail wheel or something, or just doing something to have been in the air in the last month or two might not be the worst idea?
Well, I think you could use that everybody has the place they want to go first, right?
Yeah.
So maybe go there and get, if it's not the place where you got your CFI, maybe that's a good excuse to get checked out and talk to the instructor that's checking you out.
Yeah.
You're essentially forcing somebody to get to know you.
Right.
And, that's certainly a strategy.
It could.
And you're kind of you're killing two birds with one stone, right? You're maintaining some semblance of currency while also forcing your foot in the door, if you will.
Yeah, exactly. I think that could be it. Obviously, you probably are tired of paying for flying since you've worked your way all the way up to CFI.
Yeah.
But
the last thing you do after you get your CFI,
right. But I think there's definitely like if you haven't been in an airplane for 6 months. It's probably time to go do some bounces or something. That's the secret for any CFI gig, and you know this. Try and be on the front end of any type of hiring wave at a flight school.
The other thing too that people would do, as I remember when it was a little more competitive for CFI jobs, was instead of focusing on getting the job, try and get a student. And just show up and like, hey, I'm a CFI. I have a student. Can I use your airplanes to instruct to this person?
Oh.
And that certainly gets the ball rolling.
Interesting.
It's another way of forcing your way into the door. More aggressive technique, I think, but could be effective.
Yeah. Depends on your mindset. Cool. Okay. Well, hopefully that's helpful, Mark. Let us know. My guess is you're going to have a job in the next 30 to 60 days without a problem. All right, that's flight advice. If you've got anything for us to answer, you can shoot us an email, info@215podcast.com, or you can go on our website, 215podcast.com, and there's an anonymous form you can fill out if you don't want us to know who you are, and we'll do our best to answer it.
You know what I'd like to do, Dylan? I would like to thank our other sponsor, Advanced Aircrew Academy.
Oh.
If you are a chief pilot or a director of training or even just the head of a small, medium, or large flight department and are looking for a good resource for educations about all things aviation, whether it's required by certificate or just to raise awareness and keep everybody up in the know, Advanced Aircrew Academy is your go-to company. Check them out at aircrewacademy.com.
100% agree. And follow them on LinkedIn. Like I said, they're always posting.
They do post good stuff on LinkedIn.
Yeah, like what we just opened the show with. So I really appreciate all their support and all the great information. Okay, listener email. We did get one from Mike. He said, shared a hiring rumor with a buddy yesterday. We were both in class together at US Air in 1999, and we were both FOs at Southwest now. So we probably are a bit jaded, but his reply made me laugh. I think we've all heard it one time or another. Quote unquote, you'll all be captains in a few years. Your careers are going to be amazing. Throw away your resume, logbook, interview suit. This is the last job you'll ever have.
I love it.
Oh, man.
This is so great.
I know. Well,
anyway,
anyway,
I love this job.
I know.
Hilarious. It's just the same thing. 99.
Yeah.
That's over
99.
20 years ago. It's the
99.
same thing.
It's unbelievable. Yeah. So yeah, he got that text from his buddy when they were talking about what, this is my favorite. He flew with a check airman, and then the check airman told him, how many they're hiring and blah, blah, blah. And, you better prepare.
You know what's crazy? Dude, if you think about it, when we started this podcast, we've gone through a full sine wave cycle almost. Think about it. Because remember, things were going crazy and we're like, things are going too good for too long. We kept kind of, don't forget hard landing, all our same catchphrases. And then we had to bring out the flute and the whole deal. And now everybody's hiring or preparing to hire. And things are going crazy again. But this time it's only been over the course of like a year and a half.
And in a year and a half, that's
the frequency has increased, but the cycle remains the same.
Man. And then, this is still the point I brought up before. This is the one thing that does make me nervous right now when I think about this is what I really want to see. We see these viruses appear every couple of years, and I want to know what happens when the next virus comes out.
Well,
that's my big question.
You can't say these viruses every couple of years. There's viruses that pop up that make the news, but it's been different than this one.
I'm just saying, though, the next virus that hits the news, what's going to happen?
Whether it's as severe or not,
it doesn't even matter. I'm not even talking severity. I'm just talking about what is the reaction going to be? Is everyone going to be so preloaded to respond immediately without knowing everything? That's my only question. That's my only question on this recovery, is that everything looks positive and we're looking at these, all the job predictions and forecasts and upgrades and everything is like, but what happens when, bird flu 2.0 is announced in 2023? Then what?
I don't know. I wonder if it'll affect United supersonic plans.
Oh, that's true. You could fly faster than the virus. Yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah, I think we're good.
The only thing I do know is that we don't know.
That's right. We do not know. Prepare yourself accordingly. And to Mark, who wrote us in, don't let that CFI lapse. That's you want some flight advice. There you go.
Exactly.
Oh man. All right. Well, we got some a really interesting conversation coming up with our friend Phil Derner. For folks who don't know Phil, he has a very interesting aviation background. Currently, he is the Western representative for National Business Aviation Association. He works with the group that you and I are involved in, which is the Arizona Business Aviation Association, and many of the other Western states. He also has a background in media. He was like an aviation expert on many national news programs. So you may actually recognize him. He's been on air disasters.
Yeah, we remember right after we interviewed him, we were together and we're like, and Phil was on.
He was on.
We just interviewed him.
We just talked to that dude. So he's been on air disasters. He had his own media company. And he's a plane spotter.
I learned a lot about
We
Phil.
got to the bottom of that too. So Phil joined us to talk a little bit about the NBAA conference that's going to be in Vegas in October, and kind of explaining a little bit about that. And I think you're really going to enjoy this conversation. We finally have a polished media person on the show, so he kind of makes us sound bad, but we have like somebody to look up to now. I think that's good. Someone to mentor us.
It's incredible.
Max, our intro music is a little controversial. It's the West Coast rap flavor. And I just love the West Coast. And I've got the NBAA West Coast representative on the line. He's holding it down for the left coast. Phil Derner, welcome to the 21.5 show.
How's it going, guys? Thank you for having me.
Welcome.
Phil, lots to talk about today. We wanted to bring you on to discuss one of our favorite industry events, NBAA BACE. For any folks who don't know what that is the big industry convention NBAA puts on every year. This year, it's going to be in Las Vegas. Not a lot of sleep, but a lot of action. It's a lot of fun.
A lot of action.
So Phil, well, we've had some conversation with some local operators here, and there's so much great stuff for an operator when they attend a conference like that, but sometimes it's difficult for an operator to figure out how to justify the cost of going there.
It's really easy for the pilots to see why it's justified, but sometimes conveying that to the people that are writing the checks for you to go is a challenge. So what do you say about how do you justify as a pilot or even a department manager or whatever to get a budget to go to NBAA?
Yeah, I think that's a great question, and I'm glad that you guys are asking this type of thing, because I think it's so important, because attending base is truly an investment in your flight operation for a number of reasons. I think of two big things. One, personal and professional development. Between all of the sessions that we have, I think we're going to have about 18 or so sessions at base, which you get to learn a wide variety of topics, a lot of them from different committees, different standing committees that we have. You get to learn so much. You really get to go back to the office with a ton of new knowledge and things that you can share. You're going to be a better pilot and a better employee, for some of your non-pilot listeners. You're going to truly build yourself with that. So personal and professional development, really building on your career. Another one is vital networking. The networking that you do over there, the relationships carry so much value. You're talking about the future of your recruiting. You're talking about problem solving. You're talking about building safety culture. A lot of our flight operations are smaller flight departments, not airline size with thousands of employees. We stand to learn and gain so much when we open our doors and share in two-way communication. We have valuable stuff to share with others. We have things that we can learn from others, and we really get to take lessons back. And when you have trouble in the future, you come upon some problem. It's like, hey, let me call Jack or Jane and let's see what they do over there. And people are more than happy to help. This is so vital. And this is how we build and maintain a strong safety culture.
That was one of the points that I brought up with someone who was asking this question to me. And I said, those relationships are so important in business aviation specifically. And the way you can, some of the, I was kind of playing the devil's advocate of the tougher owner of an airplane that you're pitching this to, right? And really I was playing the guy that is really looking for what's in it for me. Like, if I send you, what return do I get on this investment? That's great that you build your career, but what does that do for me? Kind of the selfish guy. And my counter to that was exactly that. You build these relationships, and sometime when you're broke down in West Palm and you shook hands with the director of maintenance at, so-and-so maintenance facility, and you call him and you say, hey, we remember we hung out at that fuel party and had a couple beers. I'm in a bind right now. Can you help me out? And that can be replicated, I think, a million different ways, whether that's you need a avionics upgrade and you can call somebody you met. I mean, those relationships are priceless. And so, or even with other brokers, if you're buying a new airplane, I mean, there's a million different ways you can spin that. And that sometimes result in a direct effect on the principal, whether that's monetarily, how quick you can get the airplane back up, things like that. And those, I think that a lot of people overlook those relationships.
Hard to quantify.
And there's no other place where you can hit so many of those different areas in one day or 1 week or whatever, however, much time you have.
Not at all. You can meet schools and learn about a pipeline for future employees. You can meet with airports and learn little tips and tricks about an airfield that you just never would have thought. No other way that you would have learned. You never would have sat down with the director of XYZ airfield or something like that. I don't know what the airport code is for XYZ or who I just referenced, but
shout out.
But what's up, KXYZ? But the opportunity to meet with so many different people in the industry. And also it's important to point out that engaged pilots and operators are statistically proven to be exponentially safer. If you look at accident statistics and incident statistics, a vast majority are people who are not engaged in any capacity in our industry. The value that you get by showing up and by being there, by shaking hands, is huge. So there's the safety component itself. And also when it comes to the pitch to your boss, I think it's important that you have something to offer. You want to present all of the information. You want to know exactly what the costs are for everything. We're working with On Peak. They're the only hotel provider that we're contracted with. Discounts on hotels. Like, go and know exactly what the prices are going to be. Hey, it's going to cost this much. Know exactly what that's going to be. Give examples of the exhibitors and other attendees, who are going to be there. I'm going to meet with XYZ again, Airport XYZ. I'm going to meet with these folks and I'm going to shake hands. I'm going to get a contact over here. I would love to form a strong relationship with this company, or all of that is so important. Even the sessions. Hey, here's the program schedule. These are the sessions I'm thinking about. What do you think? Going in there with something that you can show exactly what you're going to do and then come back to the office afterward with a full debrief. The knowledge and contacts, share them. This isn't just about you. It's not just about the person that is attending. You got to bring all that value back. So the knowledge, the contacts, when you get back, introduce your boss by email. Oh, it was great meeting you. Hey, by the way, here's my boss. Here's my chief of maintenance. All of this. So it's about showing and bringing the value. And then after this base, you won't even have to pitch it again. Like, it's just going to be, that was amazing. When's the next NBAA event?
That's really well said. Back to your point about having a specific, that was one of the justifications we had when we went a few years ago. We were looking at a specific avionics upgrade. They were having a demonstrator airplane there. And we said, hey, we want to go and look at this and physically touch it and see if this makes sense. So there's so many of those opportunities, and really it's very efficient, like we mentioned, because there's so many people all in one place.
Yeah. And for what it actually costs, I mean, the hotels are not that expensive, depending on where you stay, of course, but by and large, the rates are pretty good. You don't need a car, and the ticket is not that expensive. And of course, you could always go to some of the vendors where you spend a lot of money, whoever does, the bulk of your maintenance and stuff. And a lot of times you can get tickets that way. But even if you have to buy them on the NBAA website, they're not that expensive. It's not in the overall realm of an airplane operation. It's a very small expense for the potential return.
Phil, I want to touch on one of the downsides, and that's the amount of walking that you're going to do over those few days. Do you have a type of shoe that you recommend, or what are your garment recommendations? Do you have anything for us?
You joke, but if you look around, especially at these events, I think it's Cole Haan that makes, it's like a dress shoe with like a foam bottom. And it is amazing. I do not own these. A ton of my friends do.
Are those the ones with all the little lines on the side? You see, they're like, I think
I don't know if it looks like a regular nice leather dress shoe, and the bottom is like a white foam and just super
I've always wondered what the
and
deal is with those. Do you know what shoe he's talking about?
I
know exactly.
Or you could do what I did at Schedulers and Dispatchers a year and a half ago. You can break your foot so that you can roll around on a scooter.
Oh.
I was scooting on the carpet. Yeah.
We have breaking news from Phil. He's got some secret strategies for us.
How to get it? Phil will be listing a pamphlet on how to get an electric scooter at NBAA this year.
It's for premium only Patreon subscribers. Oh, that is a good point. It was funny because the first time I went, I remember my chief pilot said, "Be ready to walk," because there's 3 huge exhibit halls in the convention center, and NBAA uses 2 of them, and it's a monstrosity.
You just gave me a segue. I actually wanted to brag about the new West Hall at the convention center. So it's going to be in one room.
Okay,
and it's a brand new hall over there. We have a whole bunch of new things that we're pretty excited about for it. And I'm totally just plugging it all, but there are going to be a ton of announcements. The new, like I said, the West Hall over there, we're going to have a flexible keynote space so we can have 2 additional stages, which is pretty exciting. We're going to have an expanded advanced air mobility area with content. We're also going to have a heavy emphasis on sustainability, but all of it is going to be just in the West Hall. So it's going to be one hall, not, the 2 connecting this time. And it's, all kinds of screens everywhere. It should be pretty cool.
Oh, wow. That's cool.
It's awesome.
Speaking of the sustainability, that was one of the favorite events that I went to last time. Is it was a sustainable fuel presentation they put on for maybe 40, 50 minutes. You weren't there, Max, for that?
No. That was it, huh?
It was just interesting to see like the amount of work that the OEMs are putting in to be able to make it happen. Like there's a pretty strong commitment from the manufacturers to get this done. So I'm excited that it's moving in the right direction.
Yeah, I agree. It's where the industry is going, and people need to get on board. FBOs, the operators, the OEMs, as you mentioned, everyone. And it's exciting. I mean, I'm truly looking forward to, a few years. We keep making baby steps, but great, strong steps toward making this the norm and truly being a leader in that space.
Now, for people that hadn't been, this is the Las Vegas Convention Center, which is not next door to the airport. Mm-hmm. Yet every year there's a bunch of airplanes in the convention center. Phil, how did those get there exactly?
We have a parade through the streets one night where they roll them all from the airfield right through the streets. They close down some streets and they get an escort. And I haven't seen it myself. And I really want to get there early enough to watch them roll them through the streets. But we have photos that we can share. And maybe I can send you guys a link, something to share.
That'd be cool. I knew that's how they did it.
I wonder what day that is. That would be fun.
I would love, it's probably at
it's probably in the middle of the night.
Right?
Yeah. It's very late at night, but they roll them right through the streets. And I kick myself every time I miss it.
That's pretty cool.
I'm hoping to do that this year.
Hey, what's the statistic on NBAA? Isn't it it's one of the largest trade shows in Las Vegas? Is it the largest, or do you know where it ranks?
Yeah, I think I don't know what the current stats are, but I think last it was like the 6th largest of any industry, not just aviation, of any industry. So pretty monstrous. And we're close to selling out our exhibit booths already. Like this is going to be a full show. I had someone ask me a couple of weeks ago, they're like, hey, I really hope that base happens. Like, whoa. This isn't a question of, is it going to happen? It's how awesome is it going to be? And I'm really, we're past that. And it's super exciting. Everyone wants to get out. Everyone wants to see each other.
People are pent up for this.
I'm going to be
ready.
Crying the whole time, just tears of joy. Everyone, I would be saying, I missed you so much, And everyone is so eager to get past these very, very difficult times, and our industry has weathered it wonderfully. We've worked really hard. We've fought a hard fight, and we're eager to get back out there and see each other again. And I miss you guys too. So yeah, I can't wait to. I've been missing, little Arizona Business Aviation Association meetings and things like that. I can't wait to get back out there and re-engage with everyone.
Yeah, well, it's pretty hot here. I wouldn't hurry back to Arizona, but just give it a couple months. But yeah, it's an awesome event. And then obviously some of the other things that I think are great benefits, especially for operators, is that all the OEMs are there, and they're usually having I know for us, they have like the Bombardier Challenger briefing that I get to go to and learn about the latest maintenance issues and anything like that. And that's really valuable. And then some of the professional development courses, you and I had a chance to go to the CAM briefing last time. That was super cool. Pretty much most of the committees, don't they all have kind of events as well, Phil?
Yeah, a lot of the sessions are based around the committees, and I don't know exactly. I think it's that we're having 18 sessions, and most of them are coordinated through our standing committees, and they all put together amazing work. So, I mean, there's truly something for everyone. Everyone's role in business aviation has something there, you know. So not just, this isn't just for your pilot listeners. This really is for everyone. So much to be gained, and so many people go in without a plan. And it breaks my heart. And I mean, you can reach out to me and I'll sit down with you and I'll give you 15 to 30 minutes and we can figure out exactly let's make a plan. Let's make you get the most out of this, you know, so you can leave and say, wow, that was outstanding. So
that's a really good point. Be
very intentional.
Yeah. That I'll tell you, the first time I went, I did not have a plan. I just showed up and I just walked around.
Very overwhelming.
And I had a little bag and I collected, you know, little pencils and tchotchkes for my kids and, you know, USB drives and, oh, this is cool. And, you know, like, but I didn't really understand what was going on. And it was good. But the next time I went, I got involved in a lot more of the sessions and I got 10 times more out of it. So Phil, if you're up for it, we'd love to do a follow-up session with you when we get a little bit closer and everything's announced and stuff. And maybe you could just run us through kind of how to generate a game plan and maybe get the most out of the event. What do you think about that?
I'd love that anytime.
So outside of the convention center, Phil, there's obviously a lot of airplanes to look at down at the static display. Can you kind of run folks through exactly what that is and so they can be prepared to how that's all laid out?
I would just bring some sunblock and be excited to see a ton of airplanes out there.
Yeah.
Last time we had over 100 airplanes over there just to walk around and get to see. And it's amazing for people who are really, truly looking to learn about our industry. Everyone by stereotype, who's outside of business aviation or new to business aviation, they just think of very specific types of airplanes, very specific jets. And there are a lot of aircraft that they haven't seen that they wouldn't have thought was business aviation, the kind of people that participate. So getting to walk around the static displays and shake hands and get a personal tour and learn things about airplanes that you maybe thought you were already well versed in. And someone from that company shows you something. Oh, wow. I had no idea. Oh, that's pretty cool. Oh, I haven't seen this variant, and you get to see all that stuff just really hands on. And there's nothing like that. We don't get the chance to really do that much in our industry. So to be able to go to one place and just walk around, and that's why you have to plan, because you're talking about the static display out in the airfield, the convention center. There's a lot of things to do, a lot of stuff to cover, and you have to choose which day you want to head out to the static display. It's busy. You have to be intentional about what you're going to do and when you're going to do it before you show up. Because like you said, a lot of folks, there are only so many hours to sleep. These are long, tiring days, and you go home just with a lot of excitement, enthusiasm, and just filled with knowledge and motivation. I can't wait to get home afterward because I want to work harder. I can't wait, for the next thing, the next project I'm going to work on based on something that, I shook hands with someone over.
Last thing, Phil, obviously this year is going to be a little weird, kind of getting back into the convention season with the global experience we've all been going through. Can you talk a little bit about, are there going to be any differences, changes? What can we expect?
Yeah, it's a little early for us to know the exact protocols that we're going to be using. Things have been changing constantly and evolving for the better. I don't think, 2 months ago, any of us would have thought that the CDC would have come out, saying, hey, if you're vaccinated, you can start losing your masks in most places. But we've teamed up with CrowdRx, which is a company with physicians and experts that are going to be providing our safety protocols. They're going to be on site. They're going to be helping us out, making sure that any kind of biological concerns are mitigated and addressed. So we're really excited to be working with them. And the Las Vegas Convention Center is also STAR accredited with the Global Biorisk Advisory Council, which is the standard for crowds and conventions with regard to health and safety. So, there's no better place to do it and no better way to do it. So, if you're concerned about COVID, we've got you covered. We have safety just like our industry. Safety is number one here. We wouldn't be doing this if we weren't super confident in our ability to protect our people.
All right, Phil, well, we're excited for more information. We'll have you back when we get a little bit closer, and you're going to help us develop a little bit of the game plan. It's
For
going to be awesome. I want to pivot a little bit. And, Phil, you have a very interesting background in aviation, and I wanted you to explain plane spotting a little bit to us. I know you're involved in the community a little bit, and it's hard. Like, I just don't get it. I was based in LAX for a long time, and there's a very famous hill where a lot of photographers are, and I used to see them. It was right by my crash pad, but I never really got it. So can you explain the world of plane spotting to us a little bit?
To me, it's kind of like people who like cars, except airplanes are bigger, faster, and they fly. You may not own all of the awesome cars. You can't. Most of us can't own Lamborghinis, but you sure like to look at them and watch them. And it's kind of the same. And my whole aviation career started with plane spotting. I grew up as a kid across the water from LaGuardia in Queens, and I was watching airplanes through my whole childhood. And when I got old enough to learn more about planes, I got involved in the industry and kind of grew from there. But I go to LAX, I go to Imperial Hill, I go to In-N-Out Burger, and I still watch planes. And I have all my friends, very normal guys like all of us. And there's just nothing like sitting there and having that background noise and that view and arguing with your friends over which aircraft you think is nicer looking, or paint schemes that you think are nicer. And then, honestly, the last several years doing that with business jets too. I do the same with corporate pilots as well. And we're arguing about Hawkers and, which is the ugliest, which is the prettiest and everything. So
wait, is there a specific In-N-Out you go to?
You don't know the In-N-Out at LAX?
No.
It's kind of on
Sepulveda.
Yeah.
Which is where, right at the approach end of
it'd be on the north side, right under the approach of 2-4. Yeah. You've never been there?
And there's a grassy area across the street. So there's an In-N-Out Burger. You get your burger, you walk across the street to this little grassy park, and I just lay down and eat my burgers, and the planes go right overhead. 777s,
and it's cool.
Everything.
LAX is cool too because of the humidity in the air. You can see those vortices coming off the wingtips. It's super
LAX
cool.
is cool. Even just flying in there.
Yeah.
That's always
so okay. So now I have questions. Maybe you can explain. Like, it's one thing to go out to the airport and just kind of shoot whatever airplane is coming, shoot with a camera, I should say, whatever airplane is landing.
Thanks for clarifying that, Dylan.
But some spotters actually have logs, right? And they're like, oh, I want to get a specific tail number or a specific type or something like that. Can you tell us a little bit about how deep some people take it?
Yeah, and I do that too. Sometimes I'll see an aircraft and I will Google the N number, the registration, and I'll look at that aircraft's history. Where I live right now in Southern California, I live near March Air Base, for example, and there are Amazon cargoes going in and out. And it looks like a regular Amazon 767. Then I look up a registration, November 1427 Alpha specifically comes to mind. And that used to be November 765 November Alpha, which was with North American Airlines.
Mm-hmm.
And I used to work for them years ago, and I flew all around the world on that airplane. I have very specific memories on tail 765. I have models here on my desk, and I get to go to my driveway and watch my old bird still flying right over my house on approach to March. And that's a lot of that, some of the connection. I've seen this plane some other place, knowing the history of it. All that stuff is pretty fascinating. And some people, they want to see, especially like special paint schemes, JetBlue, and every airline, Southwest, they have just a ton of special paint schemes. So you kind of want to, it's like baseball cards. You want to see them all. You want to get photos of them all. You want to share them online, get the nicest photo. And with the photography aspect too, there's so many variables that you can't control. I can't control the lighting. I can't control where the plane is going to be exactly. I know approximately. All I can do is be a master of my camera and try to position myself in the best way to hope I get a really good photo of it. So the historical documentation aspect of it is something that we all appreciate. The aviation history is just as fun.
Have you ever had anybody write you or get in contact with you regarding a photo that you've posted and asking you to take it down because of like privacy or something, or like they didn't want anybody to know that they were landing in LAX at that time or something like that? Because I just figure in the world of block tail numbers and .coms and all this stuff that some people would be like, oh, and freaking out.
I haven't myself. Usually it's the opposite. It's it's a pilot. Hey, can I have a photo? Hey, I was flying that day. Can I buy that? I want a poster of it. But I haven't gotten that request with complaint. But a lot of my friends have.
Have they? Okay.
And it happens. Yeah, it does. It does happen. It's pretty rare, but I mean, I think, we all want to protect the privacy of our operators, but we're still operating in public, and legally there's nothing. If it could be seen from public land, it could be photographed from public land. And that's a tough one to fight.
Especially with ADSB and everything else. I mean, it's to really think that you're going to fly around with no one knowing. So Phil, Max and I have both done some trips into St. Martin. And obviously that's, kind of a mecca for plane spotters, I imagine, or maybe it's not. I don't know. What is the take from the plane spotting community on St. Martin?
St. Martin is it. St. Martin and LAX, I think, are the greatest places. And maybe Amsterdam is a pretty popular spot. Okay. Europe really welcomes plane spotters, but on this side of the globe, it's St. Martin and LAX. Like I said, I grew up in New York, and I was drawn to Southern California a while back because of plane spotting. That was just some of the greatest aviation adventures I've ever had, and friendships I've made with other plane spotters in LA at LAX. So the views, it's amazing. I absolutely love it. I still, for as deep into aviation as I am, I'm still just as much into the enthusiast part of it.
So I went into St. Martin a while ago, and the guy I was working for at the time said, "Hey, let's get a picture, set up a picture." So I emailed the FBO. I didn't know. I should have made some post on a plane spotter website. I didn't. I emailed the FBO. I'm like, set us up a photographer to get a picture of the airplane landing. And they're like, yeah, no problem. It'll be $100 or whatever. I'm like, sure, fine, whatever. So I land and talk to the FBO, and they're like, yeah, he'll text it to you or email it. So I get this email with the picture, and it's like a camera phone and through a bush of the airplane landing on the runway, but you can't even tell where it just looks like any airport. And I'm just like, this is not kind of what I signed up for. So what I did is we drove right down to the Sunset Beach Bar, had a picture of our airplane, and just walked up to everyone with a big DSLR and was like, hey, did anyone get a picture of this? And like 7 people were like, yeah. And they all emailed them to it and just buy them all a beer, and it worked out pretty good. So
That's genius. That's actually quite genius. So that's awesome.
So
very resourceful.
Yeah, a little life hack there. But
kudos.
Have you been there yourself, Phil?
No, and my mom has. I have a magnet on my fridge from St. Martin that my mother gave me. I just never made the trip. I used to work for an airline that flew there. I just never jump sat that way.
We did a trip. We're at the regionals with a bunch of college buddies. Remember, we all jump seated there, and I'll never forget. We were at the Sunset Beach Bar watching the planes land and stuff, and we ran up. And there's a road that goes right behind, like right next to the airport fence, right between. It's basically the airport fence, this road, and then the beach. And there's a little guardrail between the road and the airport fence, and so we hopped between the guardrail and the airport fence, and the 727 was pulling out a cargo one, right? And we're holding onto the fence. And I'll never forget, it's like, and our buddy who was like smaller than the rest of us, I remember he ends up getting blown off the fence, hits the guardrail, and gets blown into the middle of the road. So he's sitting in the road on his butt after the plane's taken off, and we're all shaking. It was pretty fun.
Yeah,
that's a great place.
There have been injuries there.
Yeah, I'm sure. I can see how that could happen now.
Yeah, funny. Yeah. Imagine that. All right. Well, any of our listeners that happen to have an empty-legged St. Martin, Phil will be happy to conduct an NBAA safety audit on the way down there. You can. He's offering
even on live legs. He'll interview your passengers. It'll be great.
It'll be good. Just need to get him down there with his camera.
Official duty.
That's right. Phil, do you have your? I hope I'm using this context correctly. Do you have your Moby Dick, or do you have your elusive airplane that you're searching for, that you're trying to spot?
Man, honestly, yes, actually, the Northrop Grumman L-1011 Stargazer, which is used for launching the Pegasus rocket, Orbital Sciences.
Orbital Sciences, yeah.
And I've been close to it. I've seen it on the ground. It's in Southern California. And it's the last flying L-1011, and I just want to see it flying. I haven't seen it in the air. I haven't seen an L-1011 in the air in 17 years. I just want to see an L-1011 in the air again.
Don't they have that flying hospital? It's an L-1011, or did that thing get retired?
You're thinking of the Orbis DC-10, the flying eye hospital.
Okay. Oh,
and
you're right.
Might have even retired that.
I just picture. Do you guys remember the movie Twister, where they were driving around in the trucks chasing the tornadoes? Yeah. That's what I picture Phil and his buddies doing when they hear about this L-1011.
What about
go?
Are there fire bomber plane spotters that like try and get into where like to photograph that?
Well, first, Dylan, 100% right. We're talking through the streets, running red lights, go,
whatever it is. Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
100%.
Phil's going to be the guy that gets a
stuff,
Tesla on auto drive and he's hanging out the sunroof while it's driving itself on autopilot.
A lot of spotters are renting helicopters these days. Not kidding. They're renting helicopters in the overflying airfields, and they're sitting up there in a Robinson, and they're taking photos looking down at the aircraft over the runway. You know, they're over the numbers, over the piano keys, and it costs some money, but some people are doing that. But
wow.
And the fire bomber stuff, I mean, I down here, I mean, I never saw fire aviation wildfires. That wasn't a thing for me in New York. So being in California now for 5 years and seeing it up close, I live close to Hemet Ryan Airfield. And anytime there's a fire, I've got their whole fleet going right over my house, and I'm watching, and it's amazing to see, but I hate to need to see it. I've seen the 10 tanker, the DC-10 tanker, the 747 global super tanker. Really cool to see them. I just really wish I didn't need to, but I've seen them from my house. I've seen these, you know, fascinating as an ad geek, but fascinating corner of the industry.
Yeah. Huh. I had no idea, Phil.
This is fascinating. Yeah. I feel more enlightened now.
I do too.
Because my apartment was right. What do you call it? Imperial Hill? What do you call it at LAX?
Imperial Hill. Yeah.
Yeah. My apartment was like right by there. So every day I would drive by there. There's a Hawaiian barbecue place right there. Yeah. So file that one away too, Phil.
That was a lot of years ago, dude.
That was a lot of years ago. But listen, it was delicious. I'm sure it's still around.
Was that an apartment or crash pad?
I had a crash pad. Then I upgraded to an apartment. I mean, you know, when you're making $1,300 a month, you get your own place, right? That was some of my favorite flying. I'll tell you, LAX is such an incredible airport. Because the variety of aircraft in there. Yeah, that's
one of the things I love about flying in there.
Yeah, you can really see everything. All right. Well, I think do you feel like you've got enough on the plane spotting, Max?
I do.
Are you going to bring camera out next time? No.
Possible.
Maybe. Okay.
Unlikely, but possible.
Phil, you know, we have been, I think the title that Max and I find that folks call us a lot is like a celebrated aviation broadcaster, I would say, is the term that most people would
very commonly throw around.
It's fine.
A lot of celebration going on.
You know, and it's fine being a big shot in the media, but you actually are really have some experience in the media. Can you kind of tell us a little bit about how, you were like on national broadcasts and stuff as an aviation expert. So how did you get there?
Yeah, goes back to Planespotting. Back in 2003, I started a website and we were posting articles, just aviation news. A lot of it was enthusiast related. And that started to grow. We started to get other contributing writers, you know, legit experts in different corners of the industry. And social media came around, Twitter came around, and we started responding to the news, you know, the news anchors, reporters, journalists, news producers asking questions and posting things. And we started replying and, you know, giving them some information. Eventually they started saying, hey, come sit at the desk with us. Come sit on the couch with us. We're going to send our camera crew to your home, all that kind of stuff. And even doing, fact checking and, you know, for aviation articles. So, you know, large famous publications giving me their articles before they publish, telling our team to go through it, and just became a media consultant doing that for years. It was not intended. It was maybe sometimes not deserved, but it was very, very unique. You know, I hate the term expert because there's nothing I'm truly an expert in. The industry is too broad. All I can do is try to translate some of our industry for public consumption. You know, I want to make sure that the public has an understanding and that our industry was being fairly and accurately represented in the news media. Because as we all know, that's a big challenge. It's always been tough. We've always been on the backhand of the headline. So I wanted to kind of bring some of that truth. But I was doing, you know, sitting on the couch on Fox and Friends and showing up on CNN and MSNBC, and, you know, then I was doing some documentary work for aviation accidents on History Channel, Nat Geo, Smithsonian Channel, all those. So I made my rounds for a few years, and it was very unique and it was a lot of fun. But I really did enjoy having the chance to do my best to set the record straight and represent our industry.
That I think is
really
cool. Special. Yeah. Because how many times have any of us watched a news story and been like, oh, this is wrong. This is, and we need you're like for the industry in a way. a truth speaker.
I try. I get my share of hate mail still to this day.
Really?
An article. Oh man, I still get hate mail from people from old articles I wrote or old appearances. I get all kinds of stuff. But like I said, I mean, I try to, I do my best. I try to do the right thing and I don't go for the sensationalism. I don't go for the speculation. I have no problem putting the brakes on stuff if I don't like what they're saying. And I mean, I could go through a ton of stories, good and bad, that I've seen and experienced with a lot of that in the news media.
Yeah. Did you experience that? I mean, in the news media, obviously, when they bring you on as an expert or a consultant, could you see, were they sometimes trying to set a story with a specific tone, or was it pretty straightforward, or what was your experience?
Yeah, and it was I would say 90% of what I was doing was accident response stuff. And only, the other 10% was other things. There was one time a producer messaged me and said, oh, we want to do a segment on why this one airline is unsafe. And we want to go over this and we would love to hear your thoughts on this. And my response was, I challenge your premise that they're unsafe, and they were referencing an ultra low cost carrier. And I was like, I mean, they're cheaper, but they adhere to standards in our industry that are proven to give us amazing safety results. So you may not like the recline on their seats, but they're actually not unsafe. So I would challenge. I understand that, but if you could just no, I'm not going to do that. And that particular one, they just didn't have me on. But then sometimes they ask questions, and I've had on air live, they ask a question that's a little loaded like that. And I understand the question. I have no problem answering the question, but I'm not going to engage in the premise. And, from there, you just very politely and professionally say, I understand what you're saying, but the reality is this, but that was all the time. And then you get, honestly, that same network station that had that, a different producer came to me and said, hey, Phil, we want to dispel all the myths. We want to show that it's safe to fly. So it's not people say, oh, these folks are awful and these folks are great. I've had the greatest and the worst from the same places. And it's all about the individual journalists or the individual producers and their specific ideas. But yeah, they try to pull you in all kinds of directions, and I had to seek training because I was just some kid from Queens. What do I know about sitting, in front of a TV camera? So I had some amazing mentors who guided me through that process, and I got media training and tried to learn and do my best to be able to handle that stuff when they threw that my way.
Media training.
Who would have known?
Yeah, maybe we need some media training. Phil, are you available as a media training aviation expert? Seriously, though, have you ever had from the business aviation capacity, has anyone ever tried to consult with you, or have you ever tried to help members or something that are trying to wade through media stuff?
I haven't. And I recently got my certified member accreditation through the Association of American Airport Executives. Mm-hmm. And part of that is discussing community relations and media relations. And I was very excited to see that, and I failed that portion. I'm kidding. But it was great to see. And I honestly welcome, we all work in a capacity where, it doesn't take much to suddenly be thrust on, because there are cameras everywhere. Everything's getting recorded. You don't need to be in public relations or in communications at a company to possibly be faced with the need to represent your business or your company in response to anything. So you've got to be ready for that. I haven't really had too much of that. I don't think anyone's really asked me that on the business aviation side, but I welcome, I'll share any knowledge that I have if I can offer any kind of guidance or mentorship there. But I think it's a very valuable skill these days, because something happens, there are going to be more than one camera on you.
That's exactly the point, is that it seems like there's an accident or some type of event, and any of us really that are in the industry could be thrust into a situation where they're comment, and I know at least at the company that I work for, we have media policies in place and for maybe if you're at a larger Fortune company, you have that. But if you're at a very small Part 91 flight department, there might not be anything.
Sure.
And, you could just be standing on the ramp and something could happen and all of a sudden the camera's in your face. So it's probably something worth contemplating.
It's also the difference between something becoming a headline or not a headline, because I've seen and still see a simple go around make that, there was an aborted landing and it makes a headline. It's like someone coming up to you and asking you about this, and you can kind of dispel that immediately. And then they realize, maybe I don't have a story here before it's on their website or before it's on TV. So that knowing how to respond and handle that, because a lot of people would respond confrontationally or with anger. And if you upset them, they say never get into an argument with someone who buys ink by the barrel. I think that's changed and in that 200-year plus old phrase, but in the age of the internet. But how you respond to these things is how you can prevent the headlines as well.
I just saw a YouTube video of basically exactly what you're saying, and it had this, clickbait title. It says, "Aborted landing in a 50-year-old Cessna airplane." It's like they're all like proverb. I'm like, they're all 50 years old. Sensationalism.
It's exactly that, know, and it's true. There's sensationalism. Some people just don't know. I try to be a little bit more optimistic and hope that people just want or need to learn. So I try to provide that education I try to not bring the attitude. I try to leave the New Yorker in my back pocket and just say, hey, I understand your thoughts or concern or what you're thinking, but this is the reality of our industry. A go around. It's a go around. This is a part of safety. This isn't it's not because something went wrong. It's because something was corrected and went right.
Yeah, that's a good point. Okay. Well, Phil, we'll have your LinkedIn information in the show notes. We certainly appreciate you briefing us a little bit on NBAA BACE coming up in October. I guess we should probably mention the dates. Do you have those off the top of your head?
October 12 to 14, 2021.
Awesome. We'll call you again when we get a little bit closer. You're going to have to formulate a game plan for Max and I so we don't fritter away. Last time,
nothing that starts too early, please.
I will tell the story. I will tell the story of how I made a very frivolous purchase at NBAA. I'll tell Phil that story next time. That
I don't even know. What
still provides some friction in my marriage to this day.
Oh, I know what you're talking about.
So we'll just tease that for next time. But appreciate it. We look forward to seeing you at industry events in the future. And we almost forgot. Phil is a big aficionado of,
almost a connoisseur, if you will.
I would say he is. Phil, we need you to help us rank our flute sound effects so we know what is the most appropriate. I mean, we'll start basic. It's simple, but then we work our way up.
This is one of my personal favorites.
Yeah, I think that's good.
Just most.
I love
offensive.
that one.
Yeah. This one's
is good too.
That one's okay. That one's okay.
It's all right. That one's kind of like
a good one.
That's
if you can just work it in there real quick. That's
if you're accentuating a punchline.
And not to sound like too much of a 21.5 fanboy, but when you guys first did that, you kept doing it. I think I don't know who was pressing the buttons, but one of you was like, "All right, that's enough," and then you just went just to add it on, and it was amazing. And then I was texting with you, and I was like. And you sent me the files, and I'm telling my wife, like, hey, so these guys, they have like a flute, and I'm trying to explain. She has no idea, and I'm playing these noises.
You sound like an idiot.
Yeah,
just
like you have to be there. Oh my God. Well,
I'm crying in tears from a flute.
It's funny because you didn't know about it, Max. I think I loaded the machine and I just started playing him, and then he's like looked at me. He's like, "What?
This is the mecca, really."
Phil, we have a private recording of Max and I doing a freestyle rap to this song that we will send you at some point.
I forgot about that too.
If I played professional baseball, that would be my walk-up music.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's just like, who is this guy? But I guess really the good news is we don't ever have to push that button right now.
I just going to say, don't ever say, I thought you were going to say we don't ever have to push that button again. I'm like,
no.
Are you serious?
No.
Do I need to assign you hard landings again?
No. But for right now, we've been able to retire that sound effect. So that's good. Knock on wood. But if we know anything about this industry, there probably will be another time, unfortunately.
You know what happens right after they hire, right?
All right, Phil. Well, thank you so much for joining us. We'll look forward to seeing you at NBAA BACE and other industry events, all the AZBA events that you show up for. We really appreciate spending time with you there as well. So thanks for being such a great resource, and we'll have all your
always a pleasure, Phil. Thank you.
Always a pleasure. Really, thank you guys.
All right.
Rock on.
And that's our interview with Phil. Well, what an interesting guy. The plane spotter thing, I had no idea about. Did you know about that before we interviewed him?
I knew because I've seen him on social media and stuff. He's actually been on some other podcasts and stuff like that talking about it. And I've had a conversation with him before because I used to, like I said in the interview, I've flown out of LAX and saw those guys up on that hill. So it's always been kind of curious to me. But
I just flew into LAX less than a week ago, and I was looking for that hill.
Yeah, you have to land on the south side to see it, but it is pretty cool. But even in Scottsdale, where we're in and out of, I mean, these guys are like professional trackers, and they know it's like they're hunting for specific airplanes they want to get. You know, kind of interesting.
Like what kind of airplanes? Like
just
uncommon, like new airplanes, or what?
Like the first time a new type will land in an airport, people try and get that, or like. I'm just making this up off the top of my head, but like when the Antonov cargo carrier comes in to Gateway or something like that, people will try and get it, or just anything unique, or like even the random stuff of like, oh, there's a 767 doing this route and it's usually never does, but it got upgraded from, whatever. And so I don't know, it's amazing how deep. Yeah. I mean, it's amazing how deep people can get into it.
Huh.
So pretty interesting world. So I enjoyed hearing about it from Phil. And I'm looking forward to having him back to kind of coach me up at least on how I can get the most out of NBAA. I've got the nightlife angle covered. It's the like from 9 to 5.
That part's dialed in.
Yeah. I get the 5 to midnight. I know what I'm doing. It's the 9 to 5. That's the real challenge.
You know what else? I was taking Phil Derner's advice, and you can actually apply it to other places. So we're going to Oshkosh at the end of this month.
Oh yeah.
And I'm super excited. It's my first time ever there. And he's right. Like you do have to you can't, it's unwise to just show up and be like, oh, I'm just going to walk around and check it out. Like you do need to look and see what you're interested in and what you're going to register for and where and what day, and kind of have a strategy. So I'm applying some of his wisdom to Oshkosh as well. So
I think it's smart.
I'm coming to you live and letting you know.
Oh, I can't wait.
You, not everybody live. Just I'll be calling you. Is what I mean.
Well, that is going to do it for number 58. Thank you so much to our sponsors, Harvey Watt, Advanced Aircrew Academy, for their continued support on this long journey to 100,000 downloads. And thanks to all of our listeners. Without them, we'd be at 1 download.
And thanks to you, Dylan. That's 58 shows is one thing. Editing 58 shows is a completely another thing.
If anyone would like an unpaid position internship at the 21.5 podcast, we are hiring for an unpaid editor.
You really know how to put the cherry on top,
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
how you got my sister, I guess.
Yeah.
Thanks, everybody.
All right. We'll see you in a couple of weeks. Until then, remember,
flexibility.
It's the key to air power.
It's the key to air power.
Rock on.
The statements made in this show are our own opinions and do not reflect, nor were they under any direction from any of our employers.